Hello again. Thank you for joining us as we dive into a new episode of Improvisations on Growth with Madhu, business and life coach. We are very slowly emerging out of isolation and lockdown, and the normality still seems far away. As people were forced to take leave of absence or to file for unemployment, we know that a big percentage will not go back to the same jobs. In this new episode of Madhu's COVID-19 crisis log, we noticed how our current professional system promotes individualism as opposed to accepting that we all make valuable contributions in our society, from managers to cashiers, waiters, and CEOs alike. What is it that has been conditioning us to believe that a person who manages other people has more value in the workplace? Why do we still feel like we need that sole, usually male figure to save us and guide us? I invite you to listen and draw your own conclusions. Going back to what you were saying, when you said a basic income, I didn't quite get the idea that people would just get some money for not doing anything. The way I actually got it, and I don't know why it was just like that in my head, it was more like 2 days a week, you're still going to do certain tasks that maybe you were trained for. You had no choice, but that's what you got into, so to speak. But only a smaller portion of your time to still like maybe like your friends are saying, fulfill certain parts, or maybe even me. I don't know. The government is telling me you're gonna get this money. You need to wait on tables 2 days a week, but the other 5 days a week, you can do whatever you want with those, and that's more than enough time to figure out what you like. For me, what it comes down to, it sounds like such a big shift from what we got used to, the 10 hours a day at work, then sitting in traffic. Then I think it will be really a big shift to just the basic income. I don't know why I immediately thought of this transitional phase of like, okay, we cannot just stop working altogether, but maybe you just do 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day.
For me, the biggest challenge is that we would need to rethink like our whole economy. And there is no model, like role model for a basic income. So what I heard from you, yeah, that might be one way to administer a basic income. And another way might be, okay, everybody just gets, I don't know, $1,200 a month, and then people can do whatever they want to do. I mean, they still can work or not work or explore or make a startup, because with those $1,200 per month, they can cover their basic needs. There might not even be the necessity that, okay, you get the $1,200, but you still need to work 2 days per week as a waitress. Because I think what we might have a difficult time to do is to really believe that people actually love to work, that people love to be productive, and that every job will eventually find people who like to do that kind of job. And now with a basic income, everybody would be free, sort of. I mean, there's still our socialization and education and whatever. But basically, on a very general level, people would be free to reevaluate what they really like to do. And maybe a lot of people would not even go to university because they like to be a waitress. But in our current society, waitress just does not have a really good reputation, you know? If you can become a manager, then you have made it, you know? Then you are successful. But if you're just waiting tables or being a cashier, you're not coined as being successful. And all those labels, I think, just make it really difficult. And if we could imagine to take away those labels, that a manager is really equal to a waitress or to a cashier because this is what they just love to do, then I think a shift in our thinking would be possible.
But why do you think we are attaching the label of success to a, let's say, a woman manager who makes a certain amount of money per year, and we are not considering a waitress successful? What is it that's missing? Is it the money that they make, or is it a pride thing, a pride factor, status?
Well, I think the money follows, and I think it's being in charge over people that we have valued more than anything else. Because it's the CEO that earns the most money. They are in charge of people. They can order people around. They have the quote-unquote responsibility of steering a whole organization, company, whatever. And then if you do labor work, so I think it's two things, being in charge of people, and maybe that still comes out of the patriarchal thinking. You know, that's the father who is in charge, and so the father is more worth than the mom who's cooking in the kitchen. So we have made this division between people who are in charge and people who do the actual work. And people who do the actual work are just not regarded as much.
Well, it probably has to do with all the slavery for thousands of years. The humanity is known for all the different forms of slavery.
Actually, working has never really had a good reputation. You know, like the simple kind of work. We always, looking back in history, it seems like we always tried to delegate that to people we look at as lesser people. So maybe we need this differentiation in order to feel better and to feel worthier than other people. And maybe this worth idea, this ego idea, we have translated into work, and now people who do work are lesser people.
You know what's the paradox? The same people who are so eager to be in charge of us and guide us and all that, somehow the people who are under them, a big percentage of them really admire. So they are still gaining the admiration of those people.
Yeah. And often people just like to follow.
It is exhausting to lead. I'm not saying that. I don't think everybody should be a leader. It's exhausting. What would happen if we all wanted to be in charge of other people? It just doesn't, mathematically, it cannot happen. But I think we're getting into another discussion as to what it means to be a real leader, as opposed to being in charge. And then would we consider that real leader again successful, or maybe we would see it through a different filter?
Tied back to the basic income, I think what we would really need is to reevaluate what leadership means and what doing manual labor means. And for now, we have put labels on it. So real leadership, being in charge of people and results and whatever, is really cool, is really worthwhile, and it's producing value. And manual labor, it's just not worthwhile. So if we try to imagine that we take off those labels, that manual labor is as valued as being in charge of people. If we are able to really, really imagine that, I think that could create a shift. Because if those are equal, if I could look at those equal, and if I could feel equal if I do manual labor or if I'm in charge of other people, if that wouldn't have an impact on my self-image and my self-worth, I think that would be real growth. You know, if I would feel as valuable, if I would clean the streets, as if I would feel being in charge of 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever, 10,000s of people.
How would you answer to someone who would tell you that this has been around before? It's the Marxist theory, and certain countries try to apply it, and it ended up in communism, and it didn't work.
I would say probably our egos don't allow us to really feel equal. Somehow we seem to need the feeling that I'm superior to other people.
You have listened to a new episode of Madhu's podcast dedicated to understanding and making more sense of the COVID-19 crisis that we're all experiencing. Perhaps now it has become clearer why community and working together and relying on each other is so important to the well-being of our world. When we trust ourselves and each other and value our work as much as the work of our peers, wonderful possibilities open up, like that of a basic income. Please share your impressions with Madhu by emailing her at madhu@einsiedler.at or leave your feedback on her social media on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. More insightful discussions in our next episode, so make sure to listen.